Hi, I'm Madison from Riding Warehouse, and today we're going to take you through some essential stretches for equestrians. Stretching for equestrians is really important for balance and stability in the saddle. Today we're going to begin with some leg stretches. Leg stretches help with sitting deeper in the saddle and having mobility for leg cues. Let's get started. We're going to start with a standing forward fold that will help target the hamstrings. You're going to begin with your feet being hips width apart, hinge forward at the hips to about a 90-degree angle, trying to keep the spine straight. And you can lock your arms out on your quads right above your knees. And you can stay here if this is enough for you. The next step would be to grab opposite elbows and hang, allowing gravity to pull you closer to the floor. Your back may round a little more in this one, and that's okay. You just breathe here and let gravity sink you closer. And then if you can reach the floor, place your palms flat, try to straighten the spine again, and press your chest towards your legs. You'll hold whatever variation is appropriate for you for 3 to 5 minutes. Next, we're going to move on to the seated forward fold. That's also going to target the hamstrings. However, this stretch can get you a little deeper than the standing version. You'll begin seated on the floor with your legs straight out in front of you and your feet hips width apart. You're going to straighten your spine. You might even take your hands and press them out on your quads, trying to stretch your crown towards the ceiling. Then you're going to fold forward. You may take your opposite elbows and rest them on your legs. Be careful to rest them either on your shins or on your quads. You don't want to rest them on your knee joints. And you'll just hang here. Your spine may round a little bit here as gravity pushes you closer to the floor, and that's okay in this version. If you can reach your feet, you can use them to pull you deeper into the stretch, straightening the spine and pressing your chest towards your legs. You're going to hold this stretch for 3 to 5 minutes. Next, we're going to move into saddle pose. As you can tell from the name, this one is really important for equestrians. Saddle pose targets the quads and asks our hips to internally rotate, just like they would in the saddle. So you're going to begin by sitting on the floor, legs out in front of you, hips width apart. And then what you're going to do is you're going to bend one leg and very carefully try to bring your ankle back toward your hip. You may have to lean pretty far out to the side to do so. And you're going to roll your calf muscle away and then sit back down. If you're already feeling a stretch here, you can just stay seated upright. If you don't feel too much of a stretch, you can start to lean back and you can go all the way down to the floor. If you find that half saddle is too much for you, or it doesn't feel right on your knee, or you can't bend your knee this far back, you can grab a prop. It can be a foam roller, a block, or a rolled up blanket, whatever you need. And what you're going to do is you can start to begin as far as you can fold back. You're going to sit up and you're going to sit down on that prop. And you can lean back if it feels right to you, or you can just stay sitting up. Most people tend to stay sitting up when they have to use a prop. And then if you find that half saddle isn't giving you enough stretch, you can move into full saddle. We're going to fold in the second leg just like we did the first, and then begin to recline back. You may rest on your hands, drop to the elbows, or go completely to the floor. Wherever you are, you're going to hold this stretch for 3 to 5 minutes. Next, we're going to move on to hip opening stretches. Hip opening stretches are important for fluidity in the saddle. So if you're chasing that perfect sitting trot, these are the stretches for you. We're going to begin with a seated figure 4. You're going to start sitting on your mat with your legs out in front of you, hips width apart. You're going to bend at your knees, and you're going to take one leg at the ankle and place it on your quad right above your knee. If this angle is too much for you, you might have to stretch your leg out a little further. If you're not feeling much of a stretch, you can start to bring your leg closer, and you may even hug your knee and hamstring. You're going to hold this for 3 to 5 minutes. Next, we're going to move on to the reclined figure 4. If you didn't feel a lot of stretch in the seated version, this is a good step for you. You'll begin seated with your legs out in front of you, and you'll simply recline back. You'll bend your knees. You might find you have to adjust your hips a little bit, and then you're going to bend that same leg, stack your ankle right above your knee. You might find enough stretch here and stay here. You should be feeling that stretch right through this hip band. You might slide your foot closer for more stretch, or lift this foot off the ground, grab the back of the hamstring, and pull your shin closer to your chest. You'll hold this for 3 to 5 minutes. Next, we're gonna move into pigeon pose. This one is the deepest of the hip stretches, but it does let gravity do a lot of the work. You're gonna start in a tabletop position, and you're gonna bring one leg forward towards your wrist, and then place your ankle off to the side, and try to stretch down towards the ground. If you can't reach the ground, you can grab a prop, go back to your tabletop position, slide it underneath, and then sit down on the prop. If you're using a prop, you're not gonna lean forward too much. You might just stay upright and breathe. If you don't need the prop, then you can start to lean forward towards the floor. If this is really easy for you and you're not feeling much of a stretch, you can slide this ankle forward and then lean forward. What you don't want to do is go past a 90-degree angle with this ankle. And then you'll stay here for 3 to 5 minutes. Next, we're going to move to back bends. Back bend stretches are good for relieving back pain and for fluidity in the saddle. We're going to start with cat-cow. This is a dynamic stretch. So we're going to start in a tabletop position with your knees hip-width apart. And you're going to arch your spine up towards the ceiling, tucking your chin to your chest, and then drop the spine and look up towards the ceiling. And you're simply going to go between those two motions about 5 to 10 times. Next, we're going to do supported bridge. You'll need a prop for this one. Once you have your prop, you're going to shift your hips forward and lay back on the mat. You're going to simply take your prop, lift your hips, rest it underneath the hip bones, and then you can lay your hands however feels comfortable for you. You can lay them out at your side. You could even stretch them overhead. You should feel the stretch through the thoracic spine. You don't want to feel this in the lumbar. Next, we're going to do an active bridge pose. This one will give you a little deeper stretch than the supported. You're going to set up the same way, scoot the hips forward, lying back on the mat, making sure your feet are hips width apart, and you're going to press your shoulder blades into the mat. Press the hips up. You might walk the shoulders under a little bit. You might be able to reach your ankles. You might just rest on the floor and then press the hips up towards the ceiling as much as possible. You should feel that stretch here through the thoracic spine. And you're going to hold this for about 3 minutes. Next, we're going to move on to the reclined spinal twist. This is good for relieving a tight and sore back, especially after a long day of barn chores. You're going to start with your legs out in front of you and simply lay back. You'll bend one knee. You're going to lift your hips up, bump them off to the side, and then you're going to pull your knee across your body to the floor. If this is comfortable for you, you'll just stay here. If your knee can't rest, you can grab a prop, place it under your knee, and then rest here. You see on a lot of yoga videos about people that turn their neck. You want to keep your neck towards the ceiling to protect the delicate vertebrae. You're going to hold this for 3 to 5 minutes. Next, we'll move on to our upper body stretches. Upper body stretches are good for riders looking to achieve a softer hand and for injury prevention. We're going to begin with a shoulder stretch that targets external rotation. You're going to begin by scooting back on your mat and laying down on your belly. You're going to take your arm out at a 90-degree angle and then roll your body towards your arm. This may be enough stretch for you. If you're feeling it strongly through here, then you can simply rest your hand and breathe into this for 1 to 3 minutes. If you're not feeling much of a stretch, you can bend your knees, stack them on top of each other, and press your hand into the floor. Be gentle with this and hold for 1 to 3 minutes. Next, we have our shoulder stretch that targets internal rotation of the shoulder. You're going to begin seated with your feet out in front of you. You're going to take your hand, make a fist, and you're going to place your fist on or below the ribs. This may be enough for you. If you're already feeling a strong stretch through here, then you can simply just breathe for 1 to 3 minutes. If you don't feel a lot, you can take your hand, grab your elbow, and very gently guide your elbow towards the center. Make sure you don't twist your shoulders too much, and breathe for 1 to 3 minutes. Lastly, we have our heart opening stretch. The heart opening stretch is a great one for those that struggle with the shoulders back issue. You're gonna start seated and leaning back. You're gonna turn your fingers away from your body at the top corners of your mat. You're gonna open your chest towards the ceiling, thinking about arching your back. You should feel the stretch through your chest. You may feel it all the way down to your wrists. If this is enough for you, you stay here and breathe for 1 to 3 minutes. If you don't feel a deep stretch, you're going to pick up your hips and extend the legs, keeping your chest pressed towards the ceiling. You can even lean your head back and then hold this stretch for 1 to 3 minutes. We hope these stretches have been helpful. For more tips and tricks, check out the Learning Center at ridingwarehouse.com.